So before the break, we created a bunch of models. We probably should have been creating them iteratively and testing them out, but for time's sake, we have to do this. Okay, so let's just run through them again to remember what types of relationships we want to build. So we are creating a locker class that holds locker number and combination. And we applied some validators onto these fields. There are validators kind of sprinkled in across all of these models. So we created a locker because when we create our student class or our student model, we need to reference this locker. So that's why the order kind of matters. So we have also a student, which has some information, first name, last name, birth year, and then for the locker, we want to create a one-to-one relationship. And we can achieve this one-to-one relationship by setting this field equal to a one-to-one field. So we are setting a specific property on this field saying that this one is a one-to-one field, and this will directly be attached to an instance of a locker if we set it like that. We'll see how we can create these instances and actually create this data into our database in a bit. But yeah, so on the schema side, we created a student that we're able to assign a locker to with a one-to-one relationship. We also have a professor that just has some information, and this professor can take multiple courses or can teach multiple courses. So we also have a course model or course table that will, so all of these are models, they're classes, and they're also tables, depending on where you're looking at them. So, or these models will translate to tables in our database. So we have our professor, which will teach a course or multiple courses. So our course is a little busy here. So our course has some course-specific information, and then we also have a connection to the professor model. So one course can have one professor. So professor, then we attach the foreign key here, and we are giving it a related name, courses. And we can use this courses in the attached model. So professors will now have a courses that will refer to any course where the professor is that professor. It'll make a little more sense when we're creating the instances and actually accessing this information. So, so yeah, if it doesn't make too much sense now, it's okay. We'll run over it again. And then we also have our students, which we will get back to. So our course, again, holds course information, and it also allows a one-to-many field. Okay. One-to-many relationship. One course, one professor, multiple courses. We have a foreign key. Good. Okay. So we also wanted to create a many-to-many relationship, and that we wanted to capture in the join table. So this enrollments here is the equivalent of a join table. And this join table holds information on the course and also on the student that is enrolled in that course. So we create a student attribute and say that this is a foreign key that is attached to the student model. And on the student side, we will have an enrollments list, basically, that we can access all of the enrollments attached to the student. So each enrollment has a student, it has a course, and it has a grade. The student and the course are foreign keys. They attach themselves to actual instances of course and student. And we set a unique constraint. We wanted two of these fields to be unique together. So we put them in a meta class. So this is specific syntax that will always look like this. This part here will never change. And then this part here can change. So this one you can set to whatever your fields that you want to be unique. Yeah, so these are our classes.
Zainab,
Uh-huh.
how is that equivalent to a join table? Like a join between what? Because we have a grade in there and that's not anywhere else.
So
If it's between like students and courses, that's cool, but then we'd have to use it with a grade.
So it's a join table between a student and a course, and in that record, we're holding on to a grade. So it is, sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, so it is, so if it's just a pure join table where it's only students and courses, you don't even need to create this entire table here. I mentioned before, we can just do this. We can set on, so we wanted to connect students and courses. We can either do it on the courses side or the students side. We can create a many-to-many field. And this many-to-many field will just connect the student to the course. And you'll also have courses within the student. So you'll be able to access the courses that the student took and also the students that are in the courses. So this is technically how you can do a pure join table. So just having a many-to-many field, setting whatever you want to connect here. And if you are creating a specific table, enrollments, you can still have access to the students inside of course. You just have to put this line. You have to specify that this is a many-to-many field going through the enrollments. So that is how the connection is being made. And we'll see examples. Did that answer your question? Okay, we'll get back to it. Okay, let's create some instances and let's kind of play around with the data. So I mentioned in the beginning that there are 3 ways that we can test these out without having to deal with our views or our URLs or anything like that. So the first way was creating a test and running a test. Our second way is accessing the shell that Django provides us. So you can access the shell with Python manage.py and then shell. And it opens a Python interpreter that is within your virtual environment that you can run these files on. So you can just write a file that has some information. So you can just do it here. So I can say from like .models import something. But instead of having it go line by line, I'm just going to write it in like a Python file and then run it using the shell. And it'll look a little familiar once we see. There we go. So I'm going to create a file called testdata.py. So it's a Python file that I'm going to just use for testing. So I'm going to import from .models, import star. I'm just going to import all of them so I don't have to specify them one by one. Okay, so in our models, let's start by creating a locker. So L equals locker. And for our locker number and combination, I'm gonna just try sending this like this. So without specifying the field, I believe it'll go one by one. Okay, so then after we create our locker, we do a full clean to run our validators. And then we can do l.save, save it to the database. Oops. So let's test this out. The way we can run this file that we just created is by running it through the shell that I just showed you. So the command is python manage.py shell. And we've seen this before with the pSQL stuff. So we're accessing a shell and then we're piping in a file that we have created. So ours is going to be in school app. So school_app/test data. So I'm just running this like the SQL commands or the SQL pages that files that we created. Okay. Models. Why is the import not working? Hold on. Models. The import is not, it's not actually working. Let's just run it in the test for now, because I know that the test is doing its thing. So this is not really how you're going to be using tests, because you're supposed to assert stuff. For now, I'm just going to use it here to it's going to return true. Okay. So making a locker, I have sending in a combination and a locker number. And then I'm going to do l.full clean. And then I'm going to do l.save. So save will actually push it to our database. Oops. Okay. Before I actually run this, I forgot to do something. What did I forget to do? So I wrote all my models, but I didn't really do anything with it.
Did you forget to put them into settings?
The settings? No, I don't need to do that in the settings.
Didn't actually create the database.
Exactly. So I created the database earlier over here. So I know that I have a database. I just didn't migrate or make the new migration and then migrate. So I'm going to do that real quick. Make migrations. Oh no. Okay. School app does not provide model enrollment.
Could it be because we're using enrollments with a through on line 38 before we?
Yeah, we actually define it. Let's do
I think
that.
it's just the S, like,
Yeah, the S there.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Enrollments, okay, I did spell first, but Oh, that worked. Thank you, guys. So make migrations, and then we are going to migrate. So now we should be able to see the information in here. So we're in our school database. I'm gonna run the table command again, so we see all of our tables over here. I think scribe table. I don't know if I have to. Okay. School app. Locker. Okay, so that describes the table and it tells you what is there. So our locker number is an integer. Our combination is a varchar. And it says here we have a primary key, which is our locker primary key. I think that's just the ID. It has a unique constraint on the locker number. And then it shows you the reference. So this is how we can check that what we did was correct. So our reference, it says referenced by the table student. And the constraint is, this is the name of the constraint. It's a foreign key constraint. It pretty much added all of this information because of, where is it? This one-to-one field here. Because I added this on the student, it also, you can see that it was referenced, that the locker was referenced by the student. So if I do the same for the student table, you can see the references here. You have foreign key constraints, you have references. So all of this connects things together in the background. So now when we create our, okay, so this one, if I create this, it should create a record in the lockers table. So what I'm going to do is run the test, manage.py test. Okay. Must be an integer. This also might be because I just returned a true instead of. Okay. Let me show you a different way of testing these out. This actually might be more visual and nicer. We're going to use the admin portal. I'll probably stay a little after class to debug the rest of them and show you guys how to properly do them. So in my admin portal, I'm just going to do this real quick. You can register your models that you've created. So I'm going to import my models and register them in my app. And then I'm going to run my server. Go here, localhost/admin. It'll take me to the admin page. It's admin and admin or not. It does not like me. Hold on. Okay, I'm registering the model. I have to create a super user. Okay. Okay. So I just created a user real quick. Oh, I didn't run my, sorry about that. Forgot to run my server again. Okay. There we go. Okay, so if I didn't add this line where I registered my models, I would not have seen these in here. So this kind of is, so this is your site administration page, and you're able to, you can create data that goes straight into your database from here. So you can test out things, and it's pretty nice. So lockers, I don't have any in here. I'm going to create a locker 106, and then combination. Okay, this is a valid combination. Save. Let's try creating another locker that is invalid. So I know that if it's less than 100 with the locker number, it'll give me an issue. So I'm going to do the same combination. Save, ensure that the value, so this is the actual error that we had gotten before. Ensure that the value is greater than or equal to 100. So I'll just say 100. And then this one, I'm going to mess up the syntax or the template here. So it's telling me that the format is wrong. And this is the exact error that I had set before. The validation error that I raised. So we do this, save. Okay, I just created 2 lockers, that's enough. So I'm going to go into my students. I'm going to create a student. Just going to say today, and I'm going to give the student locker 106. I'm going to save. Okay, so if I try to create another student and try to give them locker 106, since it's a 1-to-1 relationship, it should give an error, right? And there we go. Student with this locker already exists. So all the constraints are built in. So now if I do locker 100, that goes through. Let's create a professor. Give me a name. Fred.
Xavier.
Xavier, yes, Professor X. Fred. Another one. Okay, so we created our professors. Now for our courses, we can create a course. Let's say CS 101. Description is whatever it is. Let's say 8 credits, and we're going to choose Professor Fred. So here, if we try to save, has to be less than or equal to 6. So if we do 2, that should work. Okay, so we created a course. Let me do Art 101, something, 4 credits. And I'm going to give it to the same professor to see if that works. And it does work. So that works because in our model here, we set our professor with a foreign key. So we are allowing multiple professors to be here, and we're attaching this professor to this course through this foreign key. And because we didn't say unique, so if I had set a unique constraint here, then we would not have been able to assign the same professor the same thing. The same professor a different class, because that professor is only supposed to be in the course table once. Okay. So we created courses, and now enrollments. Enrollments, now we have access to our student. We have, let's say this person is enrolled in this. And I'm not gonna put a grade, it is required. So with the grade validation, we had a regex thing that was checking for a valid letter grade. So it's not a valid letter grade. I put an A, it goes through. So I'm gonna make another enrollment. So I think I already did this one, so we'll see if we're allowed to. Yeah, so enrollments with the student and course already exist because we had this unique together. That means if I'm trying to insert a new enrollment with the same student and course, it will not work. So I can add this person to this. I'm gonna add one more enrollment. Okay. So we added some information in here. Let's try to grab this information.
I got a question really quick.
Yeah.
So that admin page there, that stuff we're pulling and putting into the, it's from the data or going into the database, right? That's actually going into our.
Yep. So if I do a select star from school app lockers, we see our lockers in here. Yeah. So that's this is kind of an easier way to add some information and play around with it. There's also fixtures that I've mentioned. I'm not going to show that right now. But yeah, let me look up Django shell. Okay, so I have to specify the name of the app, I believe. That is why my my test data thing didn't work. So let's test this out. So school app.models. If I try running this, I'm gonna stop my server. Okay, I'm gonna run my shell and I'm gonna pipe in this file here. Okay, so I'm getting a validation error. Did I do something wrong? This should not fix it. It is possible that I need to specify the name of the locker number and combination. So locker number equals that. Combination equals this. It would help if I can spell. Okay. Oh, that worked. Okay. So now if I check the lockers, I should see a third one. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so now my file is working. So let's go back. We can create a file to play around with our data, and then we can run it through the shell using this command. So I have a locker now. Let's say I'm going to create a new one. So 143 combination can be different. Okay, so I'm going to create a locker. I'm also going to create a student. I'm going to say new locker. Okay, so the student is going to be of type student. I'm going to send in some of the information here. So oops. That's annoying. Okay. Never mind. First name, last name. Let me try if I can just send in. Birth date, I think just. I don't know if it'll validate that, so we'll see what we get. And then locker. We are going to send in the locker that we created. So new locker. So in SQL, when we're usually doing inserts and wanting to make connections, we put the ID of something, but here we can actually just put the actual object itself that was created. We can send it in, do student.fullClean, and then student.save. Yeah, the date time thing did not work. Let me modify my model. I'm gonna get rid of the birth date thing because it's gonna be annoying. So because I did this, I need to make my migrations again. Okay, I removed a field. I migrated, and now I should be able to do this as it is. I'm gonna run these commands. Okay, so locker with this locker number already exists. So when I was trying to create this again, it was just creating a new locker. So I'm gonna remove this. So because I already have it, how can I grab my locker? I can say new locker equals locker dot objects. Oh my god. Objects dot get, and I can get it based on anything that I want. So I want to do it based on the locker number right now. So number equals 142. Because it already exists, I'm just going to send in this information. So the locker number, I grab this locker and then I'm gonna send it into this newly created student. Let's test it out. Another error. Locker with this number already exists. Did I not save? I don't think I did. Okay. So it must be valid integer. Okay, so this is why we specify the fields, because it's looking for an ID as well if you're sending it in like that. And we don't really want to bother with the ID since it's auto-generated. So I'm going to say first name equals, last name equals, and then locker equals this. Okay, so we're specifying what we want to send in. I saved, let me just clear this. Okay. I run it, it ran. Let's check the records. So what did I do? I created a new student with the same name of all the other students. So select star from school app students. Okay, so now we see this Sarah with the SA as the last name. And the locker ID is 4, and that is the new locker that we had created. So before when we run the locker command, so this is what we see now. And it worked. Okay, so we created a student. So now because we created this, we can just grab the student. Oops. Student equals student dot objects dot get, and I'm going to get the student based off of last name. Last name equals SA. Okay, so this should grab this person. And since we already have enrollments and stuff like that, I'm just gonna use what we have. So what should I grab? I'm going to grab a course. So let's see. /course. So I'm just gonna course equals course dot objects dot get, and I can look for it based on a specific name. So I'm gonna say the name is gonna equal to CS 101. Okay, and that should give me this course here. And what else should we grab? I'm just gonna grab a course, and then I'm gonna grab maybe an enrollment. Actually, no, okay. This is enough. Okay, so we're grabbing this information. I'm going to print out some stuff. So I'm gonna print student. I'm gonna print the course. And I'm also going to print. That's enough for now, because we know that the locker is being sent in. Actually, whoops. Locker. Okay, so when I run this, not that, run this, I'm getting the locker, I'm getting the student, first name, last name, I'm getting the course. Can anyone tell me how this is being printed out like this?
You created
That's
that.
your Dunderstone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that
It's because I added all of these Dunder methods. It just makes it easier when you're trying to debug things. Okay, so based on here, we said our locker and student relationship can be accessed from the locker itself, right? Let's test that out. So I can say student.locker. Let's see what we get. So we get the locker here. What if we say locker.student? There we go, we get the student. So we're able to do this because we set a related name student. And it gave us access to, yeah, so with this relationship, the locker student relationship, we set a related name student, which means in the locker, we're able to access this record via student. That's the name of the thing you can access. So if I change this to student something, whatever it is, to access that information, I have to put like whatever I put earlier. Okay, let's go back here. I don't want to change that. Okay, so we tested the student and locker out. That's pretty cool. So I know that exists. I'm gonna just comment this out. So we have our student information, and our student has knowledge about lockers. So that's also cool. What about our course? So our course, if we looked at it, has information here. It also has a professor that is attached to this course. So let's see if we can print it out. Dot professor. And we're getting the professor's name. What about students? So we should be able to see all the course's students. Okay, there are no students in this course. Which is not correct. I think so. Let's look at the enrollments real quick. Okay, there are no enrollments in this class. I thought we had added some enrollments. Oops. I'll just check in the principal here. Select star from enrollments. Oh, the name of the table is going to be school app enrollments. Okay, so we do have some stuff attached to the course. Let's see. Let's grab an enrollment then. And from these enrollments, I'm just going to grab one by ID. So ID equals one. Okay, so this is an enrollment. The student is that person, and then let me see if I do this. No, that shouldn't change anything because we're getting the course based on the name and then enrollment. Okay. I will workshop why that one connection, like the related name connection, didn't work. But okay, let's go back. So the course, we were able to access the professor from it. And the professor has a related name courses. So we can say, we can print out the course dot professor dot courses. Yeah, that's what I named it. And see what we get. It's not none. I wonder if I have to loop through these. Oops. Okay, so I'm grabbing that information. Related manager object is not iterable. Okay, so it did not, something did not work properly when attaching the professors. Let me check. Oh my God. Okay, I'll look into this a little more, and yeah, let's answer some questions. So as a recap for today, if no one has immediate questions, because I know this was a lot. So again, what we wanted to get out of today is being able to create validations and then being able to create connections or relationships. So we're able to create one-to-one relationships like we saw here in the locker student example. We're able to create professor course relationships, which is a one-to-many, which we saw. The many-to-many one is the only one that's a little like this one's not working, but yeah. You can also create join tables. You can make give unique constraints and have attributes, what is it called? Reference different models. Questions? It was a lot. Anything that you want me to go over?
Go back to the validation page.
Uh-huh. Did you have a specific question on it, or you just wanted to see it?
We were just there so long ago, I forgot what was on it.
Yeah, we created a function that takes in whatever field we're trying to put into our database, and it checks it against certain criteria that you set. And then if it does not match your criteria, you can raise a validation error. Yeah, Louis.
Can you explain what validations are supposed to be used for?
Validations are
Mhm.
used to validate the data that is going into the database. So it's a layer of protection against putting data in a database that in a format that you don't want. So in here with the locker combination validator, I didn't want any combinations that does not adhere to this pattern. Same with here. For the credits, for course credits, I wanted to apply validation to make sure that it is at least 1 and it is at most 6. So I don't want less than 1 credit and I don't want more than 6 credits. So it's just to put constraints on the type of data that is allowed to enter your database. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it made me, yeah, it helped a lot actually. Thank you.
Yeah, Darius.
For that last example that you did with the courses and the professor, when you have to specify the professor to get the courses from that?
Where here? Course.
Yes, don't you have to like set professor equal to something? Because isn't that just printing all the professors in that course with course.professor?
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah, it is printing. So let me check type here. It's of type professor. So I can say professor dot first name, let's say. And that will print out. Forgot to type. So you can access these like this chained. It's just specifically getting the table that's referenced by. So when we say that, like the related name, that's the only thing that wasn't working.
But when you have to set like a new variable, like professor equals professor ID or ID1 or whatever, and then
So
call
you
course.
can get it like this. You can get the courses and the professors like that, but you can also grab them through another object. So like I did with the locker here. So student, so I grabbed a locker from my database. And I was able to say, here it is. So I can say locker.student, even though locker does not have a student attribute, but because I had set here a relation, I was able to grab it. So let me run this, and I get the student from this. So from the student, now I can just access last name or something like that. And that gives me the last name of that student. So you don't really have to, you can. So you can retrieve something from the database on its own if you know what you're looking for. But let's say I only know a locker number and I want to be able to grab that student that is attached to that locker. So this is the way I can do it. I can also say student dot, if it was working. Did I just spell it wrong?
But wouldn't that be only because this is a one-to-one relationship? The professor has many courses. You can just
So maybe it's dot all.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? There we go. Okay. Query set. Well, let me see what happens here. Enrollments.none. So it's somehow not creating the enrollments. It is possible that it's because I created it through the admin, but that shouldn't have changed anything. Foreign key. Yeah, because a course should have enrollments and a student should have enrollments. Let me see. Actually, any other questions before we keep going? Oh, there are more. Gabo?
Hey, in the models.py tab, if we could switch there real quick. Can you just real quick refresh me on what exactly happens when we put the models.foreign key with those arguments? I understand we make it a foreign key, but I guess maybe a brief refresh.
Yeah, so a foreign key is just a connection between two attributes, or or an attribute and a table. Or yeah, that's so usually, or when we were doing it in SQL, we had a connection between an attribute and another attribute from another table, right? So if we wanted to connect our course to our professors, we said that it's a foreign key, and we set professor and then ID. So we wanted to map this attribute here to the ID of the professor. So what this line is doing is basically the same thing, but here we're attaching it to the entire model. So we're saying that this professor attribute that is connected to the course has a connection to the professor model, and that is it. So pretty much you can have an instance of this professor and set that professor here, and those will automatically be connected because of this foreign key. So this foreign key just enforces a connection between two entities. So a course you create has a professor field, and that professor field will then connect to an actual professor entity that is in the database.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Can you also just remind me the related name equals courses, what that's doing at the end as well?
So the related name allows you to access the courses from the professor.
Professor class from instances of
Yes.
professor you make. Okay, got it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
That is, yeah, that's the only thing that I was trying to fix. It's because there's a specific way to grab it when it's not a one-to-one relationship, because it comes back as a list. So I have to look up the specific syntax on that. Jaden.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. So can you go over you got test data, tests, and then validators. So why do we have 3 different things, like, or at least the 2 tests? Like, what's the difference between these 2 tests?
So this is an actual test file. This, I named it, I should probably name it something else. But it's like, this file is not really related to our program. I'm just using it to hold queries pretty much.
Okay.
I'm just gonna call it playground.
Got to add, to take away, like whatever you wanted to do to the database.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
using it as a way to write code and execute it against my database using the models.
And then the difference between the test and the validator?
So the validator is going to hold the actual functions that are validating my code. Test is just another way to test my code. So this one, I'm going to go back to how it was, because that is what I wanted. Okay. Whoops. Okay. So here I was just showing one of the ways that you can test your code. You can test your connections in Django. So here you can, like, I wanted to test out my validator. So I created a new locker. In the beginning, I gave it an invalid combination. So this is going to be invalid. It's going to cause an error. So I just want to test that error handling, or I want to test out what's happening here. So I can just do this. But yeah, in these files, you can just also run code. But the only difference is how you call it. So if you're using just a random file, you can just interpret it with the shell. If you want to create a specific test, this one will allow you to use the test command, because we said that this is a test case. This is a type of test. This file comes built in when you create your project. So yeah, it's just different ways to test out our code. Of course. Do we need an under string method, under enrollments? I do have one in here. I have this one, and it did print out. I was able to print out an enrollment, but it's the multiple ones that is, it's not working here.
Can we just use a for loop in that? Or
I
add a for
did. I
loop?
tried doing that, and it didn't work because
Well,
it's
I mean,
not a list.
in the dunder method.
Oh, in here?
Yeah.
That is not recommended, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because this is for the class. So an object of type enrollment will print out this. But if you have this is for specifically an object. You don't want to kind of build it out for a list and not have it work with just an object. Lewis, yeah.
Can you explain again how each class is related to each other and how you made it relatable to each other?
So our student has a locker, and the student locker relationship is unique. So I have a one-to-one. I can only have one locker that is attached to one student. But a student can have a null locker, which is not important. But so the connection is a student has a locker and a locker has a student. So that's what this line is doing. Then we move on to our professors and courses. So we have a professor, and each course is taught by one professor. And the professor can have many courses. So here we set the related name as courses. So that means professor has access to courses. So yeah, we created a foreign key where this professor attribute in the course is attached to a professor instance over here. And then we created an enrollments table, or model, which connects students and courses together. So we created a student connection. So we connected the student attribute to the actual student model. And we also connected our course attribute via foreign key to our course model. So we can have a student and a course. And then over here, we set that the combination of student and course is going to be unique. So a student cannot be enrolled in the same course twice. And yeah, that's the connections.
Can you explain on line 43 and line 44 on delete models cascade? What is that doing?
So when you're setting a foreign key, or when you're setting any sort of connection, so if you're setting a one-to-one field or a foreign key or a many-to-many, you have to set what happens on the deletion of the connected entity or the connected data. So basically what this is saying is this student here is connected to a student out in the database. If that student gets deleted, cascade means that I will also delete the enrollment that is attached to that student. There's set null. So if on delete I set null, that means if a locker gets deleted, I'm just gonna set this field equal to null. I'm not gonna actually delete the student record. There's a few of them I just showed earlier. Somewhere here. Oh, on delete, okay. There's a restrict. So restrict and protect. So protect forbids the deletion of the object. So if I deleted a locker and I set this to protect, it would protect this from getting deleted because I want to keep this record. So yeah, there's documentation on all of them. There's more of them. Hassan, yeah.
In your test, what is assert true doing again? In your test file?
In my test. So I'm asserting that this statement is true. And the statement is saying that this string over here is inside of this. This evaluates to a string as well. So it's basically checking that the strings are equivalent.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If I said assert false, then I want to make sure that this is not in this. So this is, if you guys remember this is the error that comes out of the full clean. So if I run into a validation error, I'm trying to create a locker that has an invalid combination, then that means I will get this error, and I want to see if that, I want to make sure that this error is the same error that I get back, just to make sure that I'm getting back the error that I expected. And this error is the same as the one that I had set in my validator. So when I created my error, I set this. Other questions? Or did that answer your question? Did that?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
answered my question.
Okay, awesome. What else?
One more time, can you go over pattern? I understand it's a unique one, but exactly how is it unique
This one here?
with the R and the D? Yeah.
Yeah, so I forget what R is. I think maybe that's, I believe it's a regex string. So let me just zoom in a little bit. There's more documentation on regex, but what this is basically saying is it wants there are 3 groupings of input with dashes between them. This /D specifies that you want a number. What is in here is saying that it can have 1 digit or it can have 2 digits. So the valid ones for 1 digit is 0 through 9. And then the ones for 2 digits are 10 to 99. So anything that falls within these constraints will be accepted as matching the pattern. Did that help? Or
Yes, thank you very much.
awesome. Other questions? All right.